evening, everyone. Yeah, thank you. We're here for a great event, so we gotta be lively. So thank you for that beautiful prelude. That was an original composition that was produced and performed by Ioan Wagner. So thank you for that. My name is Marcus Hayes, and I am the inaugural dean for the new creative school here at DePauw, which launches next fall. We have a few sponsors that we would like to thank. So first of all, the Indiana Humanities, and I think that George Hanlon is here in the house. George, are you here? Will you stand up? Thank you so much for making the effort to be here. We also would like to thank the Greencastle Arts Council, the Putnam County Convention and Visitors Bureau, and the IU Center for Rural Engagement. So let's give a round of applause to our sponsors. When you came in, you may have noticed that there are some musicians who are planted around the audience. So I definitely want to take a moment to introduce them. So tonight we have Leo Sussman and Micah Layne on flutes. We have Eric Edberg on the cello and Teagan Faran on the violin. So they will be underscoring and playing while the poets are presenting their work, as well as providing a little bit of transition between pieces. So you will notice that this is a true collaborative event. And then I also want to take a moment to introduce our poets tonight. So first of all, we have Katy Didden, Ruthelen Burns, Kevin McKelvey, Adam Henze, Melinda Dubs, Eugen Gloria, Phoenix Cole, Rosaleen Crowley, Alex Komives, Clarence Zhao, Alessandra Lynch, Alejandro Puga, Thomas Kneeland, Joe Heithaus, and Joyce Brinkman. So they are going to actually come up to the stage, and they will present their work in groups that represent the different phases of the eclipse. And I'm really excited to experience this with you tonight and to celebrate the total eclipse that is happening on April 8th. So while in my heart I really want to sing Total Eclipse of the Heart, I'm actually going to hand the microphone off to our first group of poets. So first group, will you please join me on stage? And I hope that you enjoy the show. We will have a little time for Q&A at the end.
Three orbs, one umbra, then abracadabra, stars. We see what we are.
Standing in umbra, seconds from totality, in awe we delight.
Sliced cheese, eclipses patty, under sprinkled bun, garlic cheeseburger.
Diamond ring in view, eclipse watching with my wife. We hold our palms high.
Hot diamond circlet, interstellar silhouette, witness Selena.
Keep your favorite saint like embers in your pocket. See, God lights our path.
Immortality, mysterious location, useless without you.
Egg-shaped oval eye, hardened heart's obscurity. Light waves brighten hope.
Solar sea urchin, splayed kaleidoscopic spines pierce my drunken eyes.
blinded by the moon, can't see the light of our earth, still can't see myself. 月意朦胧，坐看烟云外，平生不自知。
Arrow in dark fields, dream bow for the luminous. What if we're alone?
Careless Dahlia, barely containing itself behind an eyelid. Dahlia incauta, apenas refrenada tras parpadeo.
Unified as one, we clasp our hands together, sing till justice comes.
Moon's smoke shadow drifts. False night falls on azure earth. People cover eyes.
Selena's shadow, heavenly ever depoys, weightless on earthlings.
Absolutely wonderful. Thank you all for this presentation, for giving your work. Actually, poets, will you stay on stage? And I want to invite the other poets and musicians to join up on stage. And I think that the plan is that Joe Heithaus and Joyce Brinkman will have microphones that they will bring out to the audience if any of you have questions that you would like to ask about this collaborative process, about the inspiration for their work, how did we get here tonight? So you can certainly take a moment. It's an opportunity to talk to living artists, which we don't always have the opportunity to do. So musicians are going to make their way to the stage, and I'm going to hand this over to Joe so that we can start getting the first questions. I think, raise your hand if you have some.
Can you hear me? Oh, there we go. So my friend here is laughing at me because I whispered to her just a minute ago, who's Celine? Because she was mentioned twice. So that's my question, who's Celine or Selena?
Both Melinda and I had Selena in our poems, and Selena, it's moon. That's the moon in Greece. She was the moon goddess, and they referred to, it's like Helios is the sun and Selena is the moon in Greek. Yeah. Now you do. It's a beautiful name. Yeah.
Hey, gloss of water. Tell them what of water. I don't know how to say it. I've been very nervous that I had to say that.
I don't think it's fair. I don't think the poets are supposed to get ask a question, Joe.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's fine.
I had
Listen,
to look it up. That's what I'm saying.
I selected all these poets. Now, don't you think I did a great job? They were just wonderful. But I really picked on them and nagged them about not giving me that middle line with 7 words in it. Because if you haven't seen them, these poems are up on banners in downtown Greencastle now. And it's hard to get 7 one-syllable words on the banners. So I had given all of these people such a hard way to go about that. I thought, oh boy, I got to put some big multi-syllable words in here. So that's where that came from, and it basically means heaviness. So basically, I'm saying this. In some cases, with some cultures, there was a heaviness or a scariness about an eclipse. Some of them thought they needed to do things to make it go away, and basically, so I'm referring to that, and basically saying, hey, it's part of nature, and it's weightless on us. It's not hurting us at all. Okay, next question. Is that French?
Zhao, is that correct? Pronounce it that way.
How's his name pronounced? Zhao? Mr. Zhao, my question, thank you for your haiku.
Thank you.
What is the difference between writing haiku in Chinese characters and in English with your count? Do you count the symbols? Do you count the syllabus? The syllables? How do you manage that?
I would say it's a kind of difficulty for me to write English poems, because I'm a Chinese guy, so Chinese is my first language. So writing in English, sometimes I have to translate all the characters in my mind. It's really hard, especially haiku. But I feel like for this time, I actually write English version first, and I translate into Chinese, because I feel haiku, they have like a specific rhythm. So I cannot just write it in Chinese. That's why this time I choose to write English version first. Thanks.
Jenny.
Hi, so my question is, how many of you knew as a child you were a poet?
I think I'm still a child. I mean, I think I'm the youngest here. I'm only 21 right now. But yeah, if I compare to like kindergarten students, kindergarten school student, I'm pretty old. But yeah, I think I'm still a child. I never know I'm gonna be a poet in the future or not. Poems sometimes just give me, power. I can't describe it, but sometimes I just feel it. I feel the energy of language, not only Chinese, but also English. So I'm having fun.
I'll go, I guess. I grew up next to a cornfield in Evansville, so I wanted to just explode. So I got really into performing, and this thing called Poetry Slam got really, really big around the time when I was in high school. So I was very drawn to explosive kind of things that could bring me out of my shell. Now that I'm 41 and getting older, I am grumpy. And I want things to slow down, and that's why I like haiku.
That I think the music for this, I would like to surround with applause for the music. It's really beautiful when the music and the poetry comes together. So thank you so much for that. What's my other question? How many of you are paid poets?
She means that you make your living somehow.
Well, I mean, are you talking about tonight or like in general? When I was younger, I told my parents I wanted to be an artist, and they said, don't do that. They wanted me to have a backup plan. I don't like that term. So my foundation is I'm an educator, and then my roof and my garden are, the little things I get paid for extra is poetry. And I'm sure some other people have some foundations here, and then a nice healthy roof that they get paid for their work sometimes.
I guess it's similar. I teach poetry, so I live inside poetry. I love that I'm able to do that, but I don't make a living from the poems I write directly, I guess. So.
I just want to say, I know it seems rude maybe that question, but I asked that question because my husband is Joe Heithaus, and
I know his parents were very afraid for him to pursue the arts. And yeah, he teaches poetry and writes poetry, as each of you do. And if there's anyone in the audience that's a poet, I just want to say, or an artist, otherwise a musician, like these amazing people up here, like follow it. Follow it. Let this inspire you. It's inspired me.
I just want to say it's really nice to be his student. It's really, really nice to be his student. I learn a lot.
So I was wondering, as a poet, I know this was kind of something that all of you were kind of like picked for by Joyce. How do you look for opportunities like this to get your work out there, like little things like that?
Hey, what's your name?
Graham.
Graham?
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you for your question. So I think there are a number of ways to go about doing that. There are tons of resources like poets and writers. You may also look into like your neighborhood literary associations as well. If you're outside of the Greencastle area, there's a huge network in the Indianapolis area as well to get connected to. You have Brick Street Poetry. You have Indiana Humanities you can also connect to, and then the Indiana Writers Center to kind of like get your work out there in that way. If you're looking to expand beyond this region, again, like poets and writers, Lambda Literary, there is Cave Canem for any poets of any writers of color. So there are just like tons of resources you can look into that way to get your work into journals. I also run a journal if you have work that you'd like to submit. Just putting that out there for you. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm coming. Sorry.
Hi, Joe.
Hey.
I wanted to ask, is it Iona? Is that how you pronounce your name? Iona. I wanted to ask you if you were thinking or feeling as you wrote your piece.
I mean, I would say probably a little bit of both, I think. Like the composition process has, I think, a lot of thinking that goes into it, just like in terms of structure, and for this specifically, I was thinking of a lot of ideas with an eclipse and what musically that means, but so much of that, like that middle melody, was very much like feeling for me. It was very emotional writing it, so a combination of both.
I think throughout my education, I thought haiku had to have 17 syllables, 5, 7, 5. And recently somebody said, oh no, that's not true. Usually has 3 lines. So I'm wondering what you all think about the rigid form or the fluid form.
I'm going to take this one and then anybody else can say something. I had the good fortune of learning haiku from a wonderful Japanese lady. And we even have gotten to write and be published together. And we were writing the Keisen Renku, which is where haiku came from. So basically the Americans, and I think really set the syllable right, as somebody mentioned before, from the standpoint of the beat that Chinese, or the tenor, that if you're hearing it in the Chinese language, that you would, with the 5-7-5, you get that feeling that you get with haiku in Japanese, I believe. And I'm very strict, and I was very strict with them because of having this experience in writing with someone who is a poet from Japan, just a lovely, wonderful person. And it was just a really great experience. And I just find, for instance, starting out with nature, the haiku starts out with nature, and honestly, there are all kinds of other things you can do with short form. And Americans have done a lot with short form. And there's nothing wrong with writing a short form poem, that is close to haiku, or even, I know, Adam, tell them you're really short when you know what I'm talking about the bug. Can you recite that?
Alan Pizzarelli, and it's bzzz, bzzz. That's it. You didn't catch that.
Yeah. See, to me that's a wonderful poem. Okay, it's got 3 lines and 3 sounds basically. Yeah. But it's a wonderful poem, and that doesn't mean that you shouldn't do things like that. But if you're really going to write a haiku, first of all, a haiku starts out with nature. You can use those same word counts and form, but if you don't start out with nature, it's not a haiku. The Japanese, if it's funny, it gets something else, and if it's sad, it has another name. So to be a haiku, it really needs to take nature as its inspiration, and then tell us something about the human experience. And what I was saying with all of this is that actually the eclipse, the stars, the moon, the sun, all of these are they're part of nature. They're part of our lives, and they're part of our nature. And it was just, I think, a great opportunity. These guys did such a wonderful job, giving us, I think, a great variety of insights. So I really appreciate them. Okay, yes.
I have
Susie.
a question.
Sorry, can I add to that real quick? I apologize. I never get to talk about this, so I'm taking the opportunity. So haiku is traditionally, and I'm not a linguist, so please correct me if this is wrong, if anyone speaks Japanese in here. Haiku is written in onji, which is a different sound unit than we use. So for example, ha is an on, but also hia is an on. So that doesn't really match up with our syllable count, because our units of sound are different. Japanese is a syllable-based language, and we are a syllable stress-based language. So often our haiku come out very clunky. So traditionally, a lot of Japanese writers use perfectly 17 syllables with one line. A lot of American writers use less than 17 syllables with 3 lines. But one thing to keep in mind is some people believe that you cannot write haiku in English. There are also people who criticize Basho for not writing the courtly Japanese. So there's never really been a decided upon, this is the real structure. Haiku has also always been challenged about what it is since its inception. That's all. My soapbox.
No. And they also, many of their haiku are just one line up and down. They read up and down as opposed to across like we do.
Right.
Oh, Suzanne.
I have 2 questions for each of our musicians and poets. I'm curious, from what city did you travel to be with us this evening? And also, what's your hometown? In what city were you born?
I'm a resident of Greencastle, but I'm probably from a place that's very far from all of your imaginations. I was born and raised in Maui, Hawaii. So if you find another person from Hawaii, let me know, because I'd love to have a neighbor who also speaks Hawaiian.
I'm also here in Greencastle, but grew up in San Francisco, California.
Another Greencastle local, but I grew up in Buffalo, New York.
I traveled here from Indianapolis, and I'm from Westfield.
They're really awesome. I live in Indianapolis on the south side, and I was born in Bristol, Tennessee, and grew up in Evansville, Indiana.
I drove here from Muncie, but I live in Indianapolis, and I was born in Washington, D.C.
I'm from Indianapolis. I grew up on the edge of a cornfield near Lebanon, Indiana. I spent 4 awesome years here in Greencastle at DePauw, and it's always fun to come back and visit.
I'm from China and the city called Ningbo, near Shanghai, if it makes sense.
I live in Greencastle, but I'm from San Francisco, but I was born in Manila. So when people ask me where I'm from, that's always a hard question to answer.
I live in Greencastle as well. I'd say I was born in Iowa City and I was raised in Nashville, Tennessee.
I traveled from Fishers, and I was born and raised in the east side in Indianapolis.
Born and raised from Indianapolis, and I traveled from Indianapolis.
Born in San Jose, California, raised in Greenville, Mississippi, spent 4 years here at DePauw, and now I live in Brownsburg, Indiana.
I live in Indianapolis, work here in Greencastle at this university. I was born in Rochester, Minnesota. For what it's worth, I wrote the haiku on a flight from Mexico City to Indianapolis with 17 undergrads in tow, because Joyce said I had to hurry.
Hi,
I just had a question for the musicians. I heard a lot of different sounds throughout the performance, and I wanted to know what are the different instruments you all were playing, because I know there were multiple, and where are they from, and how did you choose those sounds?
Thanks, Kate. I guess I'll take the string end of things. So Eric, who was down here, was playing on a carbon fiber cello that he had retuned to be lower than its normal pitch. I was playing on a standard violin that came from Cremona, as well as a viola that was made in Ohio, and a 3D printed Hardanger fiddle. For us, we chose these instruments as a way of sort of painting the path of the moon, and so I started on my sort of more higher pitched, moved down to the viola, which is the lower pitch, sort of big brother in the violin family, and then up back to end on the violin. And I saw a hand shoot up, which makes me think I should explain what a Hardanger fiddle is, which is a Norwegian violin that has sympathetic strings underneath it. Happy to show you afterwards. I'll pass it to the Flute Brothers, though.
Flute Brothers, that's our new band name. So as Teagan mentioned, range was something that we were thinking about throughout this. So how high or how low are the sounds that we're making? And as somebody who primarily plays a concert C flute, it was really fun to experiment with a lower instrument, the alto flute, kind of the larger cousin of what you might see the typical standard C flute. I was also playing a penny whistle and a Native American flute, and Micah's got some more toys over here.
So I brought all of my ethnicities practically. We have here an ancient instrument that was actually featured in Dune. This is an Armenian instrument called the duruk. A very, very beautiful ancient sound. One of my favorite instruments, this is a Chinese flute with a special kind of membrane on it called dimois. And this creates a very beautiful sound, which I love, especially in Kunshu opera, southern Chinese opera. And this is a Native American flute, similar to the kind that I actually make here in Greencastle. Oh, there's a sweet potato around my neck. This is just a clay ocarina.
I'm gonna ask a quick question, because we had all these beautiful images that came from NASA, and we have an astronomer and a physicist among our poets. Yeah. And I'm just sort of wondering if Alex saw anything that surprised him. I thought you had, in some ways, the coolest image, and I'll never look through my own drunken eyes without thinking of you.
They were all amazing images, I have to say, especially like the one on the airplane. I think it was yours, Clarence. Mine was really interesting. It was a challenge to write for that one, I will admit. But yeah, all the images were great. I hope we'll get to see something similar next month.
Have you taken a selfie yet with your banner on the courthouse square?
Here we go.
Thank you so much for all the poets, and thank you also for the music. That was so amazing. And as a Japanese, I really wonder how you feel about the Japanese poem, which is considered 5/7/5, because for Japanese, that rhythm is considered as the most beautiful rhythm, and it really makes sense because that rhythm 5/7/5 are used in some Japanese pop music right now too. So it is so familiar rhythm for us. So I wonder how you feel, or is it kind of hard to understand how beautiful the rhythm is? So
I think I answered that. I think it's beautiful. Who up there wants to comment?
Sure, I'll talk. Actually, Joe Heithaus told me to read haiku a very long time ago, and I read a lot of it, so it's very interesting to get into that tradition and see how it relates to other traditions from Eastern Asia. And it's always fun to see those cultural moments of that 5-7-5. If you know iambic pentameter from English, the I am mimics your heart. And so there's those sorts of connections that are cultural that go back so literally thousands of years. So it's interesting to really hear that.
I think I was trying to listen for a while to Japanese readings of haiku because the rhythm was so beautiful, and I don't think I've quite gotten there in English. It has a very distinct patterning that I think we're approaching with the syllable, but there's a sense of emotion to it that is really hard to translate.
Thank you for that question, because I did not know that. And the way we teach, the way I teach haiku when I do teach it in class is to have students think about the line, the poetic line, and think about the syllables as a way to measure the line. And so it's a good place to start. But I really don't know the music of it, and really I'm just going by, what you learned when you were a child. So it's really something I always associate with being a child and writing poetry. But then over the years I learned that what happens in the haiku that I really love is what happens in the third line. And the third line for me always has to surprise you. And it always has to be something in response to the first two or not, the first two lines. And so that's what I love about the haiku. But thank you for that question, because I really don't know the music of it.
I just want to give a shout out to one other aspect of the haiku that I really love, which is the season word. And in groups where we've practiced, so that would be when you're writing a haiku, you each write with a common word, and or a word that relates to the season. And I hadn't understood how communal that was and how marvelous it is that it's also an experience of many people looking at a similar subject. So like tonight, that we used eclipse, that was our central word. There's something so beautiful about that as well, that you're connecting across time by way of a word.
As I had said before, haiku came from Rinku, and the Asian languages or the Asian people have been so smart in how they've collaborated in their work. I mean, Case and Rinku, all the Rinku, they're linked verse, and they do a lot of collaborating. The poets in the past, the really famous poets, have in Japan and China both, have done a lot of collaboration. And that's one of the things that I really like about it, because I do really like the collaboration. And I think it's been wonderful the way we've had the collaboration on this project too. It's just been outstanding, and I've really appreciated every contribution that everybody has made to this, because there have been just a lot of contributions, and it's been a great thing to have that kind of collaboration. Sometimes, I think in America, we think of poets being either overlooking a graveyard or sitting out in the woods and writing something all by themselves. But I think when we get together and write together, it just makes it even more beautiful.
Okay, I was curious if the music was all improv or if it was composed, and what the process was of connecting the music to the poems. And I'm going to just throw the pictures in there. Who picked the pictures? There's a lot of questions.
I mean, on my end, mine was pre-composed, but I know their process was definitely different.
I would say we had what we call like an improvisational framework, where we knew approximate sort of like lengths and characters that we were aiming for, but I think we specifically kept the haikus themselves a surprise for us so that we could give our genuine response And so the music that you were hearing between each haiku was an in-the-moment improvisation between the four of us.
I just want to, I think we're done. It was great to hear these questions and answers. Like, there's such a brain trust involved in this, and I want to thank Joyce Brinkman, who is kind of a glue. I'm a local poet, but had I not met Joyce several years ago, I don't think I'd do, like, I have a poem in the barn here in this community. Joyce, so many things I have done as a poet, and to be able to reconnect in a project with two of my former students, with my colleagues, with poets I've admired from afar, with these incredible musicians. We're lucky in Greencastle and DePauw to have one another, and to have someone like Joyce in Indianapolis just connecting dots in incredible ways. So thank you all for coming out, and have a good night.
Could I have Marcus come up just for a moment?
Yeah, sure.
Because again, it's so wonderful, I think, about the new creative school, and that's all. This has been about collaboration, and the creative school is going to be about collaboration, sure. And so I'm going to give him one of our tote bags and thank him for all the help and all the support that we've had on this project. And some of you ask how you might get connected or how you might do something in poetry. This is our podcast. We would invite you to listen to our podcast, and you'll learn a lot there and probably get some inspiration and maybe some ways to do things. So, we always have to advertise even when we give presents away. But Marcus, we are so appreciative. It's just been wonderful. Thank you so much.